Everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. And thank you for your interest in our PhD program. The PhD Management program at the Suleiman Daoud School of Business at LUMS is the first business school. So we are the first business school to have received the AACSB accreditation from the American Association of Business Schools. It was a long, hard journey, and we received this certification last year, right? So now this PhD program takes on a life of its own. And if any of you were not present when we gave the workshop in the admissions open day, then please do grab a brochure of our management program. Quickly, we have 3 broad interdisciplinary streams in our management program. The PhD program, organizational behavior and strategy, operations management, and finance. Operations management, we are broadening to include technology, MIS, big data, data analytics, all right? So that's going to be a change starting this year in the operations stream. I'm happy to talk to you offline about this program. We will be very soon also conducting webinars, so watch out for those on social media about our PhD program, right? But today's discussion is about how to write a research proposal when you're applying for PhD. So a research proposal is an extremely important part of your application, all right? We understand that a lot of you have reservations about taking the GRE, GMAT. That's something that we can't take away. But a research proposal is something that we can definitely help you with, and that is my intention for this next hour, okay? A PhD is not for everyone. I'm supposed to be marketing our PhD program, but I have to warn you, a PhD is not for everyone because a PhD requires a lot of time, resources, and passion, and it's something that you should do only if you feel you can't live without a PhD because you love research. Don't do it because you think it's the answer to a midlife crisis. It's not. It's a crisis in itself because it is 3-4 years of incredibly hard work, okay, in which you will not be able to give time to the things that you usually give time to, okay? So think carefully, think hard before you jump in. But if you have decided to jump in, we're here to help, okay? So the research proposal is incredibly important because it is the window to your soul that a group of faculty who have to decide who to take on as potential colleagues, as because PhD students, as you understand, are not just undergraduate students, they're not MBA students, they are potential colleagues. They're people you will likely work with as faculty, that you will do research with, that you may even work with, okay? So we spend a lot of time going through each PhD applicant's file. And the time that, of course, most of our time goes into the research proposal, reading the research proposal because we want to understand you. We also want to understand if you really care about research, right? So this is a place where you can shine. But when you're writing your research proposal, please think about that panel of professors who will be reading your proposal amongst a stack of others, all right? So the time that anyone will be able to give to your proposal is very, very limited. So your proposal has to shine. It has to stand out amongst this big stack, all right? And so in the next few minutes, I'll share some ideas on how to write your proposal. Of course, the idea is yours. What is it that you want to understand? And also know that even though we call it a management PhD, the conceptualization of management is really wide. So we have had graduates of this program who have looked at disaster management from the 2005 floods, okay? So that may not appear immediately as something that a management PhD should do. But management is everywhere, and organizational behavior, operations, finance is much broader than immediately comes to mind. So please think creatively and look back into your own resources. What is it that you want to talk about? Also understand that we're not going to hold a gun to your head and say that why is it that this research proposal is not really what you're actually doing once you join the program. So your ideas can change. That is fine. They can be very different from what you've put in your proposal. But what we want to see is how much of careful thought you have put in to this proposal. Okay, so there is no exaggeration. Your proposal is what will get the most time out of your entire application packet, as far as we are concerned, when we go through this, right? That's why we do this workshop, because we want to make sure you can present the best proposal to us, okay? Okay, so let me show you something that I do with my own students. Is this clear? It's not clear? I'm sorry about that. Is there anything we can do? Maybe we can dim the lights a little bit. Yeah. So this is really, these are the essential elements of a proposal. What you have been given, you've been given a template, and we expect you to fill this out. But this is not the entire proposal. You are free to write a 1 or at the maximum 2-page proposal in addition to this, okay? So we will go through this in a minute, but let me talk about what a proposal is broadly speaking. So right in the middle, if you can't see what it says a research question, right? So what is the main question that you're going to be basing your entire thesis on? That's the question. And if you, can you see the fact that all these arrows are interconnected? These 5 balloons are interconnected, right? By two-way arrows. So the most important part that you begin with is your goal. What is it that is making you move towards this topic or area of study? Okay, so it could be in anything. It could be in organizational behavior, it could be in finance or operations, but you have to have a goal, a purpose, something that is moving you to this question, okay? When we talk about, and I'll show you a more detailed map of this, and then connected to that is your conceptual framework. So before you start your actual research, of course, you have to understand what have people already written about it, right? And that's called the literature review. Oh, okay. So a little down, yeah, is that better? Okay. So you have to you have to search the existing universe of scholarship to see what has already been written on this topic, on this area of study, and whether there are still some questions that have been left unanswered, all right? Because if everything has been answered, then really there's no purpose to doing a whole new study, right? So the one thing that you have to see is you have to locate your question in the existing literature or scholarship, and you have to find what is this gap that you're seeking, and you have to tell us. You have to tell us what gap in the existing literature you seek to fill, okay? It's as simple as that. The most exciting proposals are those that tell us a little bit about the debates in the scholarship, okay? So personally speaking, my PhD was on microfinance. So the proposal went something like this. What we are told is that microfinance is an important tool for poverty alleviation and women's empowerment, but research has recently found that it can actually end up exploiting women and the poor. Now here's a debate that I was able to give in just 2 sentences to you right now, okay? So one thing is being able to talk succinctly, not giving, you don't have that space, right? It's 2 pages maximum, and you have to fit in a lot. You don't even have to give us 2 pages. It can just be that 1 page or just this form. But for yourself, you should do this exercise. And I would say, make this map for yourself, all right? So what is the debate that you seek to further through your research, okay? That's what your conceptual framing is going to be about. And then you have to have some idea of your methods. Those of you that are coming from heavily quantitative backgrounds, such as economics or engineering, you would have already this given strength in quantitative methods, right? So, but also recognize that there is a method of research and a method of analysis. We are not asking at this point what your method of analysis will be. All right, that is far down the road. What we want to know is, suppose, and I'll take my own example, suppose you do want to find out whether microfinance helps women or not, then how am I going to find this out? I could either run a survey, or I could do qualitative studies, which means I would do in-depth interviews, run focus groups, okay? So focus groups, in-depth interviews, qualitative methods, surveys, quantitative methods. We're not asking what your regression model would be like, all right? We are least interested in those details. At this point, we just want to know what your very broad conceptualization of the research would be, okay? So just draw this map for yourself, and then validity is something, again, that at this point you don't need to worry too much about. How valid are your results? How believable are they? Can other researchers use your data to prove you right or wrong? It doesn't matter whether you're being proved right or wrong. That's called falsifiable research, and you don't have to spend too much time thinking about that, but if you add just one line saying, well, you know, these are my research methods, but I understand that these methods have some limitations, and these limitations are A, B, and C, or just A and B. You could write about that, all right? But again, that's not important. The most important are the other 4 balloons here, okay? And just one more slide. And I understand that this is not visible to most, right? So I'll just read this out to you. What I wanted are these top left rectangles that are feeding into the goals. So when you're thinking about your goals, the goals of your research, please think about what is it that interests you. Okay, as I said, a PhD is a very painful, long process, so it has to be something you're passionate about. It has to be something that's coming from your own personal experience, okay? That's something that you care about. So personal goals, perceived problems, problems that you have seen around you, all right? So maybe you have worked in organizations where the environment is particularly toxic, so you want to study. You want your scholarship to be in the area of abusive leadership, all right? Abusive leadership is a very important field in organizational behavior, okay? Or you want to see why are organizations, so if you're coming from the financial industry, you want to understand why are women not able to climb the corporate ladder as fast as men, and so you would study diversity in organizations, okay? So think about your experience, think about what has intrigued you, what has made you curious, and try to come up with a personal goal that can then relate to your research goal, okay? And that would go to your research question. Your research question should be very clearly defined in the proposal. One thing that I'm just telling you from years of reading these research proposals is that the organization of your proposal matters. As I said, we have very little time to go through this stack of applications. If you have some nice subheadings, crisp subheadings that tell us, all right, now, he or she's talking about the conceptual framing. Now they're telling us what their research question is, right? It'll make our job easier, and it'll just be easier for us to understand what is it that you're proposing, okay? Then the conceptual framework is about existing theory. As I said, you should know a little bit about the scholarship in your area, and that is why even in this form, please see that we ask for we ask you to attach a bibliography, okay? So an undergraduate proposal would have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sources. Since this is a very basic proposal, it's fine to have 3 to 5 sources. But these should not be just sources that you've listed because it looks like the list is nice and long. You should really know what they're saying. And what is it that you're trying to add or subtract from the literature based on these sources, okay? And also know that, of course, we will look at how you format those sources. If they are in proper format, the MLA, Harvard, Chicago, any one of those standard bibliographics citation formats, please learn a little bit about those, okay, so that they, and then methods, again, well, this is very detailed. We don't have to go into it, but there are other things like ethical standards. So there are some standards for research, especially when they are regarding human participants, right? So you don't want to endanger anyone while you're conducting research. And then your research setting, where is it that you will conduct this research? Okay, if your research problem is about a very urban organizational context, then you can tell us that I will conduct my research in Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, wherever, right? So a little bit of that, but again, you don't have a lot of space. So I'm just telling you some of the things you can put in maybe half a sentence, and that would cover this. So you don't have your data yet, right? So you can't talk about your conclusions. This is just what your proposal will look like, okay? Any questions at this point? No? Yeah? Okay, so remember, again, I'm reiterating a few things. We're not looking at analysis, we're looking at methods. You don't have to say, I will use axial coding, first order, second order, to analyze my data. This is not the level that we are at right now, okay? We just want to know how you propose to conduct your research when you go in the field, and how is that connected to your research question, okay? So remember that, going back to remember that all of these are connected. So make sure when you write your proposal, it does not look disjointed. Everything is connected to one another. All these balloons are connected, right? So your research methods have to be connected to your research question. Are these methods appropriate for the question that you are trying to find an answer to? And are they connected to the conceptual framework? One very easy way to figure out what your methods should be is to look at the literature. Those that have already studied similar topics, what kind of methods are they using? Okay? So if it's more of a qualitative study, that'll come out immediately in the literature itself. Okay? So that's why all of these are connected. Remember that your goals, your own personal skill set should feature in this too, right? And just now a little bit about writing. So writing is the first impression before we even read the content, okay? Before we even begin to understand what you're saying, we will already make an impression of you based on the writing. If there are grammatical errors, if you have, for instance, not proofread, so last year we had an applicant who wrote a nice proposal, except that it was all addressed to Harvard. So, so he forgot to do find and replace. That didn't go very well with us, right? So just basic, try to write an active voice, not passive. Write short sentences. The research methods course that I teach them this one line that I think is really important for all of us who write and do research. Don't put a tuxedo on your brain when you're writing, which means don't use fancy words. It's your ideas that matter, and those fancy words will just help your ideas get lost somewhere, right? So the most hard-hitting, effective writing is written in active voice. It is well edited and does not use fancy words to impress. None of us can impress each other with fancy words, but we can impress each other with the quality of our ideas, okay? So one of the things you can say as you end your research proposal about validity is whether or not you think that your thesis will be generalizable to other contexts. Okay, that's an important part of validity. So if I have found out that microfinance actually does a disservice to the poor of Pakistan, can I make a general statement about South Asia, about the world, right, or not? And if I can, then I have to say why. I can say that the poor in South Asia are very similar in cultural context, in demographics, right? But maybe I can't say that about the US or Eastern Europe, right? So say that my results are going to be able to are going to be generalizable to this region, or they'll just be generalizable to this type of organization, right? So my results are really, or you can say that in your limitation, that because I only plan to interview managers in multilateral, multinational organizations, these results may not necessarily hold true for small NGOs or public sector organizations, right? So if you say that, that looks extremely technical. It looks like you have really thought through your proposal, okay? So I will end here, and let's see what Q&A we have. Questions, anyone, please? Do you have a question? Yes. Mm-hmm.
My name is Osama Muslim. My question is how far we can go towards generalization of the research topic so that we can characterize the topic.
That's hard to tell because we would need to understand your research question, your methods, right, and your analysis. So this is just something that you will have to estimate. Do you have an idea on what your research question would be about?
Like I'm from computer science background
Okay.
and data science.
Okay.
So I would be going towards deep learning.
Okay.
So I will definitely be talking about more generalized.
Right.
Way.
Absolutely.
More generalized.
You will. But then to look more of a professional researcher, you should say, however, right? Even though this is generalizable, however, because my particular context does not include, for instance, rural settings, I am not sure if this can be applicable to those settings, right? So if you have a however, which is essentially your limitation, then that just makes it a more complex and therefore more nuanced proposal, and that always is more welcome. Yeah?
Thank you, ma'am.
1, 2, 3.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मुझे बिब्लियोग्राफी के बारे में थोड़ी सी कन्फ्यूजन है कि मैंने उसको रिलेट करना है अपने रिसर्च क्वेश्चन के साथ, और मुझे उसकी मतलब उसके मुझे URLs नहीं देने, उसके अंदर ये बताना है कि उसके अंदर किस तरह से वो रिलेट हो रहा है.
So the bibliography is going to just be an attachment. It's only going to be, the bibliographic format only tells you what were your sources, right? But you will discuss some of that literature in your proposal because you will say, I understand the scholarship that I will seek to further improve, right? And so the sources that you are listing, you will discuss those. Yeah, and you will use in-text citations so that I know that if you've listed 5 sources, which one are you talking about in sentence 1, and then how are you linking it to another one? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि बेसिकली आपने जो मैं समझाऊं कि हमें रिसर्च प्रपोजल में क्या चाहिए कि हमें एक ऑब्जेक्टिव चाहिए और रिसर्च गैप चाहिए बेसिकली, लेकिन रिसर्च प्रपोजल में लिटरेचर रिव्यू और इसमें इंट्रोडक्टिव पैराग्राफ हमें शामिल करने की इस स्टेज पे ज़रूरत है या नहीं?
So, thank you. Good question. We do need a bit of a literature review. Because you have to tell us कि जो sources आपने list किए आपने उन्हें पढ़ा है या नहीं, आपने उनको समझा है या नहीं, और आपने उसमें gap कहाँ से ढूंढा है. So you say that, well, Khankar and Pitt have talked about how in Bangladesh microfinance has helped a lot of women, but Meher and Safaviya have said that in Pakistan this is not necessarily the case because our context is slightly different. So this is how you're relating more than one source, and you're saying, so I will further investigate this, right?
So it will go beyond 2 pages?
No, it won't. So that's the whole point, that your literature review can be as large as 1 paragraph or maybe 2, or short 3 paragraphs. You don't have the space to really discuss the literature.
Mean to say we can accumulate 2 or 3 papers in 1 paragraph? And
you don't have to summarize the papers. A literature review does not include a summary.
I can discuss their findings in 1 paragraph. Mr. A, B, C did this and that, but I am going to this and that.
That's
that
right.
will be my research.
That's right. So that's just 1 paragraph.
Yes.
Yeah, you're done.
Okay. Second one is introduction about the topic. Is it required for the proposal?
There are no requirements, right? You don't have to, but it just sounds nice if you begin with your goals.
Right.
My research is going to be about this because I'm concerned about XYZ.
Right.
Yeah?
Or someone can uplift his or her MPhil research paper or research thesis for PhD.
Uplift का क्या मतलब?
मतलब उसको extend कर सकता है?
Yeah, you can talk about that, but it has to be a significant MPhil के बाद PhD, and especially the PhD, the program that we have is extremely rigorous. So you can say that I've done this research in MPhil, and now I need to find out, I need to develop this further by finding out all of these things that I never had time to look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. You had a question?
Should I?
Okay, go ahead.
If you can just talk a bit about the second last question on the paper, what do you know about the process of academic research?
Right. Okay. So academic research is basically what? Research is systematic study. It is study of area or topic which you want to know more about, on which people have already paid some attention to. Right? So you can just answer it any way you want, but this is more of a broad-based question. That is why I'm saying I'm not saying that you have to, but it would be nice if you have, in addition to this, a 1-pager or a 1.5-pager that talks about your research proposal. All right?
The thing that I wanted to ask, that if you've identified a gap in your local landscape, but that gap has been discussed broadly in the international landscape. Nobody's in Pakistan's done it. And to be sort of clearer on the subject, which is embroidery and craft in Pakistan as a subject, has not been covered by a lot of PhDs. So that's
in Pakistan, but they have been covered globally.
Have been covered by Indian academics in the Indian landscape, so much so that they've taken over the Pakistani landscape also and taken ownership of it, considering it the subcontinent.
So you have to then broaden your discussion of the context, and you have to somehow convince us that the context in Pakistan is so different from the context in India that we absolutely need research in Pakistan.
Does that not, having a Pakistani view and relevant to data available in Pakistan, does that not, is that not a gap in itself?
It is, but then you have to make that case. So all you have to do is to make a case for your research. Why is it important? It is important for you. It should become important for us. Reading your proposal, yeah? So that's all you have to do when you talk about your goals. And then the best proposals are those where the theme doesn't shift around. You have a single theme throughout. In each section of your proposal, you are re-emphasizing why is this so important. Yeah, so even when you highlight a gap in the literature, you are re-emphasizing why is this so important.
Right.
Yeah?
And one more question, which is that you spoke on the language of the proposal. So coming from a creative industry, I think that at LUMS also I was at a disadvantage because my writing is more on the creative writing side versus the more sort of business. And so is it supposed to be...
So this is technical writing. Research is technical writing, right? This is an issue that all of us have who love to write and write in different genres, that it needs to be written, as I said, in active voice, small, hard-hitting sentences, yeah? So it can't be too flowery. It can't sound like a novel, yeah?
Hello, I have two
Yes.
questions. First is, as you told that your personal goal must relate to your research goal. Would you like to throw some light on it?
It doesn't have to, but it just makes it easier, as I said. Like I said, PhD is a hard, long battle, and you will only stay committed to it if it has some personal connection. Yeah, so if you have a personal goal, again, going back, I'm sorry, the only example I know is my own best. So my personal goal when I came to my PhD program, I didn't know my research question, but I knew it had to be something about poverty alleviation. So that was my goal, right? And that's how I found my research question.
Okay, one more question is that
Yeah.
it's written in that there is a method of research, quantitative, qualitative, and simulation. So I would just want to know about simulation.
Simulation is something that we do in the business school. It is, if you don't know about it, don't worry about it. We will teach you. All right. So again, use your existing skill set. All right. Simulation is just how would we. It's more of a thought experiment. If these conditions, if X, Y, Z were to happen, then what would be the result, right? So if inflation was 3%, then the economy would move in a certain way as opposed to inflation being 15%. So that's a simulation. There's a question here. Oh, okay. And then we'll come to you.
My question about why your research questions are important. It mean about research problems or about questionnaires. Let's suppose I am conducting research in finance.
Okay.
So in finance, data is generating in every second. So I can use econometric tools. So I have no need to adopt questionnaires. So is it about problem statements or about questionnaires?
Questionnaires are just a tool for your research. Econometrics, use of econometric methods are about analysis. So at this point, we're not really interested in your analysis. We're interested in what tools you will employ to generate your data, and for that, you have to have a question, right? The universe of data is infinite, so you have to have a research question.
Okay.
Yeah? There's a question here. Wait for that. Yes.
So, thank you. My questions relate to the same which we are talking about, the research question and the goals, and my brother asked about what should be the problem. Actually, this is the main issue about the research proposal.
That's
How
right.
to come up to the question from where you have to take a start. So now, for example, we are attending this class, so I need to know how to find out the research question. I will give certain examples so that you can able to comment on it. For example, in our country, the economy is very gloomy. So now we have to find a problem. So this is a problem. Now from this problem we have to generate question. So why this economy is not improving? So we will find out because the marketing sector is not producing good products. So that's why they are not producing good products, because there is no innovation. So now there are 3-4 things interrelated to how to find out whether we are looking for innovation, we are looking for good products, or we are looking for economy. So what should be my research question and how should I focusing? Just guideline.
Right. So
thank you.
Thank you for that question. There is a difference between curiosity and research. All right? We're all curious about certain things, but when we start doing research, there is a concept called parsimony. Okay, that is very important when you start your research. Parsimony means tiny, tiny question, tiny lens. Okay, so we look at the world broadly, but we can't start doing research on everything. Okay, we have to hone in on one small piece of the pie that is not making sense. So you said there are so many topics that are coming out of it. There could be innovation, it could be stagflation. What is it that you are interested in studying, and what is it that your existing skill sets are going to help you study, right? So if innovation is close to what you have been doing or you know something about, then that is what you should look at. Yeah? If you're more adept at economic analyses, then you should look at it from more economic or econometric models, right? So, and yes. Okay, you have it? Okay, I will just continue.
Ma'am, I have two questions related to my research topic I have chosen.
Okay.
My research topic is poverty alleviation among single mothers
Okay.
In Pakistan through building entrepreneurship capacities.
Okay.
I have chosen this because I have my own NGO and I am already working on this project. So, but I am working in whole Pakistan, I've started. This is one of the projects. But for the research, the scope should be Pakistan or Punjab or Lahore. What is better for the research?
It depends on you, right? It depends entirely on you. It depends, again, we can be very ambitious, but remember that people who are looking at your proposal have years of research experience of their own. So when we see something very ambitious, we know that it's not very likely that you'll be able to finish within 4 years. Right? So try, again, not to be too ambitious in your proposal. We are looking for candidates who have the capacity to finish this PhD within 4 years. Yeah, so if you say कि मैं सिब्बी भी जाऊंगी और नलतर भी जाऊंगी और लाहौर भी जाऊंगी, then we'll say, wow, this is going to take some time. So again, it depends on you. Maybe you will be able to do all of this, but just try to be a little credible and say, this is going to be. But if you already have an organization, you already have access, then that gives you an edge. And so do talk about, when you talk about your goals, where your personal experience is, right? That you're already someone who has been in this field.
Yes, scope for Pakistan is better. If I have already some network to work in other provinces, or Punjab will be better.
Yeah, either way, it depends on you. Yeah.
Right. And ma'am, this is the research topic, but I have not chosen the research question, not narrow on this. So, because it is through building entrepreneurship capacities, so that the single mothers can be self-reliant. So, can you guide me some research questions?
This is a good area, and you can talk about the prospects for alleviating poverty through entrepreneurship. You've already got a research question. Yeah. Sorry, we haven't come to this side yet. We will come, yes.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is regarding the research question topic. You just mentioned we really don't need to specify the research question. We just have to be the broader topic.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Don't paraphrase me. I didn't say that. You need a research question. That's the whole crux of your proposal.
Okay, fine. Okay? And then I definitely misunderstood.
No, that's okay. Thank you for clarifying. I hope everyone got that. Yes.
Okay. One thing, this is the template you have provided us. So our research proposal will be in an essay form, or we will just be filling out this template?
It can be both. So you have to you have to send us this, but if you want, you can attach a 1 or at the most 2-pager. So if you look at the note below, a single or maximum 2-page typed proposal is sufficient. Yeah?
and we can we can form it as an essay and just answer all these questions in it. That will
No, no,
perfectly.
no, no, no. So you have to answer these within this form.
Okay, we have to answer
Yeah,
it in
and
this
then
form.
what I have told you, if you wish, you can frame your proposal, the one that you attach to this, as goals, conceptual framework, research questions, methods.
Okay.
All right?
Another question. If we have the option of changing the topic later on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what I said. No
Yes,
one's going to put a gun to your head.
In that case, for example, if I think about changing my topic, I'll be needing some guidance. So will there be people who will be guiding us in what can your research question be?
That
Who will be
is
guiding
the
us?
PhD program at LUMS. We are here to guide you, teach you. This is a rigorous program. That's what the brochure is for. Please take this. It's a 1.5-year rigorous program of study where you'll only be taking courses, classes, and then you will have 2 comprehensive exams, by the end of which you would be equipped to run without any assistance, but we'll still be there. So a team of professors are going to be your supervisors, and we will guide you until you get the day you get your PhD. All right? That's the program. Over here.
Ma'am, is it a good idea to go through the faculty's profile and the ongoing projects in the department and then relate your proposal to it, especially in the scientific
That's a
disciplines?
really good question. Okay, so here in Pakistan we have 2 models. We have the North American model and the European model. In the European model, this is the way to do things, right? In the European models, you look at the faculty profiles and you think, well, who is it that will help me with, and in fact, you start contacting them even before you apply for a PhD program. At LUMS, we use the North American model where you don't have to do any of that, okay? As long as you are able to convince us that your proposal comes in the domain of organizational behavior and strategy, operations management, and finance, it does not have to align with any faculty's existing projects, yeah? Can we give this gentleman a chance? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
My question is that if I think this is my research question based on my knowledge and my experience, what I have done, but I'm not sure that it has been addressed somewhere else. So how can I?
That's what your literature review is about,
Yes.
right? You will look at the existing scholarship and see whether that question has been addressed or not. We don't expect you to write already like a PhD. A PhD has no excuse to make a mistake about that. Maybe you're addressing a question that's already been answered. But we do want you at this stage also to look, at least spend some time at the existing literature and see whether or not these debates are already happening. And if there's a gap, that's great. If there's no gap, then maybe you should move somewhere else. Yeah?
But my question is that how can I just find out that where the source of all this literature is, or for example, because based on my experiences are multidimensional now. So I've been to industry as well, education. I've moved to education sector now. So I'm thinking about that. I have read literature, but not that much. So how can I just?
So before you start writing the proposal, you will.
Source? Yeah, what is the source of that literature?
Yeah, before you start writing a proposal, you have to do a secondary research, right? You have to do secondary research because you can't start writing a proposal until you know कि उस scholarship में हो क्या रहा है, right? And that's how you will know. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? There's one here and the one here.
Good morning. Professor, my question about funding.
Oh, yeah. So funding is something that we took care of when we did the open day. This workshop is about proposal writing, but I'll just very quickly tell you that we have 4 years. 4 years of, so this is a completely funded program. You get stipend.
No, my question about funding, about research, small companies, funder in influence. big companies influence small companies. And
So that's a research question?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how can we tackle that big problem? Because when we research and the funder influence, they detract us from our personal goals, area of interest. How can we tackle this issue?
Well, that's what your research proposal has to be about. That's what you have to think, and that's what we will see, right? How you have analyzed this research question. Yeah?
Okay.
Thank you.
so much.
There was a question here. Can we get the mic?
Assalamu alaikum, this is Nita Ibrahim. I just wanted to ask about the referencing the method which we have to use. Is it APA or we can use any?
You can
method?
use any as long as it's internationally accepted.
Okay.
Yeah?
Great, thank you.
There's a question over there.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. I wanted to ask, after reading, how many papers we can decide now that we are ready to write the literature review for the research proposal?
So for the research proposal, really, we don't, like I said, we don't expect you to have your PhD already, which means you don't need to know the universe of scholarship in your area, right? But you should look like you are pretty comfortable talking about it, okay? So I would say under a dozen would be good. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
There was a question here, yeah? And then here, yes.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि अगर हम अपने रिसर्च प्रपोजल में यानी कि रिसर्च में बेसिकली अगर कोई इंडेक्स इंट्रोड्यूस करवाते हैं जो कि पाकिस्तान के केस में मेरा केस स्टडी है पाकिस्तान तो अभी तक किसी ने किया इज इट अ रिसर्च गैप
That's exactly the question that Sahar asked. You will have to build a case for it and say, why? Is this not the same as, say, if someone's already looked at Thailand? Why can't we equate Pakistan and Thailand? So you have to tell us what is it that is missing from the research because no one has studied Pakistan.
Means अगर मैं women empowerment को लिंक करता हूँ economic growth of पाकिस्तान से other than that अगर इस पे किसी ने रिसर्च इंडिया में की हुई है proper तो उसको जनरलाइज वो हो जाएगी पाकिस्तान पे इस पे रिसर्च वर्क नहीं हो सकता PhD के लिए
हो सकता है. But again, remember I talked about the concept of parsimony. Parsimony is a tiny, you have to narrow your lens. So women empowerment, economic growth.
Yes.
That's like this. I would suggest you go a lot narrower.
Right.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Just a suggestion.
Miss, my question is, in case you just told that management is everywhere. In every field, there is management. This program is PhD management. So people are from different backgrounds. So like my background is engineering, and later on I have done MS in project management.
Okay, great.
So I am somewhat inclined toward construction domain or the projects domain.
Excellent.
So if I do have an idea for that domain, would there be some consultation where that idea exactly fits in organizational behavior or in finance or in operations?
Yeah, so if you're stuck while writing your research proposal, please get in touch with Umar. Umar is our program manager for the PhD program. Hamare brochures, agar aapke paas abhi nahi hai, then please pick them up on your way out. They have his contact details, yeah, and we will see how to assist you in case you get stuck while writing this, okay? Did you have a question? No? Okay. Yes, Sahar has a question. Any more questions?
Just a basic question, under the 3 streams that you offer, where does entrepreneurship come?
OB, and it's usually
OB and
organizational
strategy.
behavior and strategy, yeah? Any other questions? Are we done for the day? Thank you very much for your time, and hope to see your applications.